what to do with all those feelings. Welcome to our workshop, How to Regulate Your Emotions. I'm Bethay, Resource Navigator at Here Tomorrow, a mental health collaborative located in Neptune Beach, Florida. These workshops are just for information. If you're interested in finding out more about mental health treatment for yourself or a loved one, speak to a peer at Here Tomorrow about your options. Let's get started. I'm going to put you to work right away. Grab your journal or a piece of paper, and let's take a few minutes to reflect on these questions. What does this term even mean to you, emotional regulation? Secondly, what strategies do you currently use to deal with your emotions? Popular choices are alcohol, nicotine, binge watching Netflix, shopping, but perhaps you grab a word search, or maybe you call a friend. You have strategies. Think of them and write them down. Lastly, what would your day-to-day life look like if you could regulate your emotions effectively? What would change? Pause the video. By regulate, I mean taking an action to influence your results. Taking an intentional and deliberate action to alter how intensely you experience that emotion. It does not mean suppressing the emotion or pushing it down. We all know that that doesn't work. Eventually, the emotion surfaces. It's more a matter of influencing our cognition or our thoughts to steer them in a more beneficial manner so that we can be the captain of our own ship, as opposed to letting the emotions just roll over us like waves and carry us away to some action that really doesn't even meet our core values. And that's when we turn to the results. It's about responding instead of those knee-jerk reactions to life stressors in ways that do honor those values. We're all very familiar with the problem. We feel a trigger. Reading down this list of triggers, this is what's really happening to us. But you might notice that so often these triggers don't come in this form. Rather, they appear as a song we hear on the radio, or a smell, maybe a neighborhood that we drive by, or just something mentioned. Those are our triggers. And then we experience these feelings, and what happens is a huge explosion. So learning to recognize those triggers, whether they come in the forms of a song or feeling, and being able to intervene by influencing the results is what we're after. Let's take a closer look at our purported enemy, the emotion. How long does an emotion even last in the body? It has a lifespan. Now, in this slide, I'm not referring to the dull yearning of grief or even the lasting fulfillment of love. I'm referring to those emotions that come up in our body on the day-to-day, at work, when we hear that song, when we smell that scent. 90 seconds, 1.5 minutes is the time that we need to, instead of turning away and suppressing that emotion, turning toward it to address it. If we have the capacity to lean into our emotions and look toward them, they can be our teachers. So what are your emotions trying to tell you? Resentment could be showing you where you need boundaries. Jealousy can indicate what you most desire. Shame could be teaching you what needs to be accepted. Fear can be indicating your big opportunities for growth. Anxiety could be telling you need to ground in the present and learn mindfulness. Anger could be showing you that you need to establish some justice. Sadness might be teaching you how to let go. Whatever emotions you're experiencing, they exist for a specific purpose. If you avoid those feelings, you also avoid healing. What are your emotions trying to teach you? Let's take a look now at some strategies to release emotions. We're all familiar with the concept that we should be out in nature more often, but there are other strategies that we're going to look at today that are non-traditional. We're going to check out an excerpt from a YouTube video, and I ask you to keep an open mind looking at some of these strategies. Let's check out what she has to say.
Your experience. So what you're about to see is a demonstration of the 7 tools for emotional release. I'm just taking a moment here to connect to my heart, to connect to my power, and just really prepare to dive deep, as even just doing these exercises for a short moment can be incredibly powerful and shift a lot of energy. So the first exercise is a hand scream. You're just going to want to cover your mouth and scream as hard as you can, and make sure that you're moving your body here. So your whole entire body should be releasing energy. Ooh, as you can see, it's very intense, and yeah, wow. It gets the heart rate up and really, really is a really strong, powerful emotional release. So I'm just taking a second here to sit in that energy. And moving on to the second tool. This is a pillow scream. So it's the same thing as a hand scream, but just going to release it into the pillow. And again, you're going to want to use your whole body to move the energy. So keep shaking, keep moving, keep releasing, not only with your body, but with your voice, with the sound, making the sound to really move that energy up and out of you. And once you're complete, just taking time to feel that energy movement in the body. Your heart rate should be up, and you will be feeling shifts already. The next exercise is called wailing. This is where you open your heart, you open your back, you open your chest, and you really release. So you can't see here, but I'm making noise. It's like you're wailing. Whatever noise wants to come through, you just allow your body to make that noise. So it's a bit of a moaning sound, and it's a really strong and powerful one for grief, for releasing grief, and yeah, just connecting to your heart. Just taking a quick stretch before I move on to the next exercise, which is called pillow fucking or pillow thrusting. I'm just taking a moment to connect to this pillow that I am going to thrust here. This is extremely powerful for releasing sexual trauma, for releasing trapped sexual energy. I find I have so much like anger and power stored here, and I had a little nip slip, so this is cut a bit short. But that one's really intense for me, and obviously there's so much energy there. When you just give yourself permission to shamelessly release it on the pillow, it's incredibly empowering to just, yeah, let it rip. Moving on to our next exercise, which is going to be pillow bashing. So this is my personal favorite. Make sure that you put your hands together like this to protect your wrists, and yeah, release a lifetime of rage on this pillow. That is my favorite. My favorite exercise. It is so juicy and such an amazing release. It feels so, so good. even if there's nothing you're particularly needing to be angry about or punch. I love to just release this way. This next one is a tantrum. So this is your 4-year-old self's dream come true. It's just you allowing yourself to completely lose control and have a tantrum and screaming and kicking and moving that energy through the entire body. And like any child after a tantrum, I tend to just pass out. There's just such a sense of relief afterwards. This is the final exercise. It's called stomping. So this one looks really silly, but it's super powerful. You're stomping and you're releasing through your feet, and at the same time, you're punching the air and releasing through your arms. And it is very, very, very powerful. So those are the 7 tools. I really hope you try them out and let me know how it goes.
So what do you think? Have you ever tried anything like that before? Here are the 7 tools recapped for you. I've tried about 4 of them. They are super powerful. And as she mentioned, they're more about shifting your energy and really rediscovering your power. They're not at all about getting rid of that emotion. They're about leaning into it and dealing with it. So, which one would you try? I think it's worth mentioning a characteristic that I've noticed in many people that call seeking peer recovery support services. Particularly true of depression and anxiety, individuals tend to think that they are utterly unique, to believe that your darkness and angst is so different or complex or twisted that nobody else could possibly comprehend. Maybe like me, you too feel like your particular circumstances are much more complicated and difficult for you than others. Because you're so distinct, you're alone. I call this terminally unique. I didn't make up that phrase, but it resonates with me. This phenomenon of terminal uniqueness repeats itself in the minds of many people, but it's a fallacy. If most people share that same core feeling of complete uniqueness, then it's a characteristic or even a symptom unto itself. I believe that it's paramount that we overcome the sensation of terminal uniqueness and find a willingness within ourselves to connect, to plug in, to seek out those similarities and find our tribe of supporters. I discovered that I'm not terminally unique, and that was the beginning to connecting and recovery. Can you relate to this idea? Have you ever felt that way? While it's true that each of us is personally responsible to regulate our own emotions, no one can recover in isolation. Proceed cautiously but faithfully to connect with your tribe of supporters. Let's check out one more step-by-step approach to regulating your emotions that you can do in public. So, number 1, create space. Pause. When you notice that trigger, stick your feet in the sand is what I like to say, but there again, you can put a big old bubble in your mouth. Whatever imagery it takes for you to stop and not react based on that emotion. Notice what you're feeling. Tune into your body. Where are you feeling this emotion? Some people carry it in their chest. I carry my emotions in my back. Other people carry them in their gut and have digestive issues. Where do you carry yours? Number 3, name it. Place labels and identify those emotions. Be curious about what you're feeling and finding out more information about it. If you've never seen a feelings wheel, Google it. Feelings wheel. These are fantastic for helping you to more carefully identify and explore the emotions that you're feeling. Number 4, accept the emotion. Normalize and validate your emotional experience. Don't judge yourself for the emotions that you're having. Just let it be. These words, normalize and validate. So many of us look to others to provide that for us. We want our mothers or fathers or partners, lovers, to tell us it's okay, that what we're going through is going to be able to be solved at some point. But a lot of us don't have that person in our lives, or the person, our loved one, isn't going to react that way and provide that validation in the way that we would appreciate, even though we've asked them to do it that way. Guess what? It's not up to them. It's not up to your mom or your dad or your boyfriend or your wife to fix your emotions. It's up to you. You are personally responsible for normalizing and validating those emotions that you have. Because let's face it, they are normal. When they come up, they're intense and they're scary and they can make you feel all kinds of ways, but you do still fall within the realm of the normal human experience. And so you can tell yourself, you know what? This is normal. I felt this before. Same old. I felt it before and I'll probably feel it again. But at any rate, you can talk to yourself and realize that you are now your parent. You've got to take care of that. Finally, the last step after you can go through the first ones is to practice mindfulness. Stay in the moment, not in the past, not in the future, where your feet are right now. So if you're all spun up in an emotion and something bad has happened and you're full of anxiety and fear or whatever emotions you're experiencing, how in the world are you supposed to stay in the moment? The answer is mindfulness. Well, how do you practice mindfulness? It's quite simple. There are lots of options. Choose your favorite. You could do simple breath work. You could journal or practice gratitude in another way. Exercise, always popular. Notice that in the visual, I didn't put a person hitting the gym. You only need your body weight to do exercise. You don't need an expensive gym membership. It just means start moving. That could look like walking or stretching or any number of things. Similar to the person I put doing yoga. She's not at a hot yoga studio sweating it out in front of others. She's in her living room. You can do the same. Pop on some YouTube videos. There's all kinds. Reading is an excellent way to stay mindful. In this image, I even put a book about mindfulness, The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. Or meditate. Here in this image, you see a picture of a person sitting in the grass. You do not have to learn special chants or do something that's out of your realm of comfortability. Meditation takes many forms, and it could look like just sitting down in a place where you're comfortable and breathing. Are there any ways in which you practice mindfulness, or any new habits that you might be willing to adopt in small increments in your daily life? Grab that journal or piece of paper again and take a few minutes to reflect on these questions. Based on the strategies that you've been presented with during this presentation, what are some strategies that you are definitely going to put in your toolbox and use to deal with your emotions? Remember, it's going to last 90 seconds, so you got to lean into it. What can you do? Secondly, take a moment to write down a brief and very specific action plan. Off to the right, this is what it might look like. The next time I'm triggered, This is what I'm going to do. Have a plan. When we don't have a plan to regulate our emotions, our feelings end up having a plan for us to react explosively. So what's your plan? And finally, what other specific practices are you willing to incorporate into your life? Might you try some of those non-traditional wailing or tantrum throwing? Or would you be willing to read a little bit more, practice yoga? How are you going to insert that pause button the next time? Pause the video, take a few moments, and reflect. If you are interested, I have a worksheet that recaps all of the key concepts from this workshop, and I would be happy to share it with you via email. Thank you for participating in this workshop. If you would like some more information about emotional regulation or to get the worksheet that accompanies this presentation, please email me at bethay.garcia@heretomorrow.org. And be sure to ask about more workshops that we can share with you. Go forth and regulate those emotions.